Good morning, everyone. Please excuse me, I am struggling with some shortness of breath, and I am using these videos as an opportunity to practice my cadence on camera. Because of my disability, I have sometimes my brain is faster than my mouth, so I'll project my thoughts out there, but the speech is garbled. My speech muscles can't keep up. And I'm trying a new thing where if I slow down and I think I'm a little too slow, then it's probably just the right speed. So if you happen to be watching and you want to comment on the speed and the cadence, that would be so appreciated. And now I'm going to be talking about the phenomenon of self-diagnosis in neurodivergent and chronic illness spaces while I do makeup, potentially badly. And if you have watched previous videos, you know that doing things badly on purpose is actually part of overcoming perfectionistic OCD. And for me, it's about me getting more confident on camera. So now that you know what my agenda is, let's just get right into it. So I'll start with the elephant in the room. If you go into a neurodivergent space or an autism space or ADHD space or anything of that nature, a lot of people there will be self-diagnosed. They will not have gone to a medical professional, but they will have seen the criteria and they'll identify with the experiences and they'll identify with that community and adopt that label for themselves. And it's very controversial. Some people say it's valid. Others say, no, you shouldn't do it. And I fall somewhere in the middle because I have been in the autism online space since 2001. I was a member of Asperger's Women on MySpace way back in the day. I've seen what autism communities have become, and I see what has become normalized. And I have a chronic illness. And I have friends who have chronic illnesses. And I've seen them struggle to get the answer and the treatment that they need and dealing with medical gaslighting along the way. So I wanted to shed some light on what constitutes self-diagnosis and whether or not it is valid. So I guess the first thing I'm going to address is that medical disparities do exist. Like, if you come from a culture where autism isn't known about, you may not be diagnosed until adulthood. If you don't have health insurance, that's a problem. If you do not have a textbook case, that's also a problem. You know, some medical professionals just can't be bothered to read between the lines or venture outside the textbook that they read in school 10 years ago in any way, shape, or form. So that does happen. And this happens with chronic illnesses a lot as well, especially if they are not very well understood or if they primarily affect women and minorities. Just look at what women are going through when they seek treatment for something as normal as menopause. Or if you are someone that struggles with fibromyalgia or mast cell activation syndrome or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, if the doctor has not seen it or you are not the typical patient, they can't be bothered to give you the benefit of the doubt. They just want to tell you that you're lying. Or that it's just anxiety. Especially if you're a woman, anxiety is the big one. You could be having a heart attack and the doctor will say it's just anxiety. And women and minorities have died because of this. And when you are a woman or a minority, or if you are a man with a female typical illness, or if you are simply bothering the doctor too much, you may have to go to multiple different doctors to find out what's happening with you, and you may have to go to several more doctors to get any kind of treatment. And that's not doctor shopping. That is completely normal self-advocacy. And if a doctor is telling you that you're not having the symptoms that you're having, that you're exaggerating or you're lying about them, without evidence, I mean, if they do have evidence, then that becomes another issue. But if they just say everyone's tired, just exercise more when you have fatigue that prevents you from feeding yourself, that's medical gaslighting, and you should advocate against it. And I would never tell a woman or a minority or a vulnerable man that they should just take that, or that they shouldn't seek a second opinion, or that they don't deserve treatment or care or recognition for their condition. That's absolutely not what I'm advocating for at all. But I feel like that's not self-diagnosis. What you're doing in that situation is you're noticing your symptoms and your experiences and how they're affecting your life, and you're asking the doctor, what is it? And how do I fix it? That's what doctors are for. That's not doctor shopping. That's not self-diagnosis. That is self-assessment. That is self-advocacy. And I don't think any reasonable person is going to be complaining about that. But self-diagnosis is a bit more tricky. And I'll explain to you why. Self-diagnosis, I guess I'll give you an extreme example. If you are, say, struggling with pain in your bones, and you heard a lot about fibromyalgia, and you're like, hey, this kind of sounds like what I'm experiencing, and I would like a doctor to help me out with this. And you decide that you don't really need the doctor to tell you what you already know, that the self-diagnosis is enough. But the symptoms get worse, and you get new symptoms, and you find out later that you actually had bone cancer, and it's too late to treat it. That is an extreme example of how self-diagnosis can actually be dangerous. But most of the time, it's not really that dire. But I do think you sell yourself short For example, I'll just use myself. I do have an autism diagnosis, but I had to completely divorce myself from the outcome. I had to prepare myself mentally for the possibility that I wasn't actually autistic and that I would not have the answers that I was looking for. And in the end, I do actually have an autism diagnosis, but my much more significant disability comes from a condition called nonverbal learning disorder, which is actually rare. It's not even recognized in the DSM. Some people don't think it even exists. And my case is so profound that it's only found in 0.02% of the population. It's actually really rare what I have. And if I and nonverbal learning disability is not autism. It has a different symptom profile and it requires a different course of treatment. And if I had just said I'm autistic and I identified with that diagnosis and I was emotionally attached to it, I'm robbing myself of the opportunity to find a real solution to the things that are holding me back in life. I'm not finding out who I am or what my struggles are or what the keys to my success are if I decide that self-diagnosis is enough. So if you are seeking an autism assessment for whatever reason, I just really encourage you to ask yourself, okay, why am I seeking this diagnosis? What services do I need? What treatment do I need? What answers am I hoping to find? And this is the most important thing of all, and I had to do this too. You have to completely divorce yourself from the outcome. You have to accept that you might not really be autistic. You might not have ADHD. You might not have bipolar. You might not have whatever you think you have. You might have something else. You might not have anything. And that is emotionally very, very difficult to do. And if you're watching this, you might think, well, why would anyone want to identify with a disorder? And it's not about identifying with a disorder. It's about knowing the truth. It's about having something that explains everything you've ever asked. It's about setting yourself apart. It's learning to love the parts of yourself that don't fit in. That's what it's about for a lot of people. I know that's what it was about for me. And I am not here to tell you whether you're doing this thing or you need to do this thing or you are experiencing symptoms or you're not. That's not what this is about at all. I'm just inviting you to please ask the questions. That's it. If you want to know the products that I'm using Profusion Cosmetics Lizzie McGuire eyeshadow palette, and I'm using Hard Candy lip stain, and I smudged my lipstick, which is on brand for doing makeup badly. It's blood red. I absolutely love it. And then there's something else. It's not just about the self-diagnosis piece. It's also about people that go doctor shopping. And well, what the hell is doctor shopping? Like, we already discussed what it's not. We already discussed that people can and do have legitimate reasons to challenge medical authorities who don't do their research, who are prejudiced against their patients. So, what is doctor shopping? I define doctor shopping as when you go around to multiple providers to get a very specific result. It's not a quest for answers or a quest for treatment. It's, this is the result that I want, and I'm going to go around and find a doctor who will tell me what I want to hear. That is doctor shopping. And when people do that, whether it's for painkillers, whether it's for a disability diagnosis, for benefits, or whatever it is that they're doing, that just feeds into the phenomenon that people with genuine disabilities have, where they're just being gaslit all the time and where doctors treat us with general suspicion. And again, I'm not accusing you of doing this. I'm simply asking the question. And I think people in chronic illness and autism spaces need to just be honest about the fact that this happens. We're not saying specific people are doing it. We're not saying you're doing it. We're just saying that it happens, and to stop being naive about it. And I also think that at this point I should probably define what medical gaslighting actually is. And gaslighting in general is a very overused and abused term. It does not mean anytime someone disagrees with you or challenges you in any sort of way. It specifically means when someone interacts with you in such a way that you doubt your own perception of reality. So they act in a way where they have plausible deniability. You know they did it, you know they said it, but they didn't technically do it directly, so they'll just pretend it never happened, and you're just being too sensitive. Like, again, the woman with the heart attack being told that she has anxiety, she's being gaslit. But a doctor not telling you that you have autism when you want to be told you have autism, that's not gaslighting. That's a doctor giving you his professional opinion. Like, and again, going to multiple providers to get an opinion is fine, but getting angry with them when their opinion disagrees with yours is not grounds for you to accuse them of medical gaslighting. It just doesn't work like that. Seriously not cool eyeshadow. Let's see how pigmented this is. Oh, this is pigmented. I love this. This is my Lizzie McGuire eyeshadow palette. Now, do I have any real solutions for how to police our spaces? No, I don't even necessarily want to police our spaces. I just want people to police themselves and to be mindful that these are communities of vulnerable people who struggle with representation, and to realize that appropriating their condition is harmful to them. And I want you to realize that appropriating a condition that you're not diagnosed with is also potentially harmful to you. And I don't think that should be a controversial take. So this is the final look. I love the colors. I just wish it was neater. So hopefully I don't get canceled. I have to go to work. You guys have a great day. Stay safe, stay well, be severely, persistently, mentally well.